Pop idol Lady Gaga is now the face of Pfizer's migraine treatment drug, Nurtec ODC.
I know what it's like to perform through pain. If you're like me, one of the millions suffering from pain caused by migraine, Nurtec ODT may help. It's the only medication that can treat a migraine when it strikes and prevent migraine attacks. Treat and prevent all in one.
Don't take if allergic to Nurtec. Allergic reactions can occur even days after using. Most common side effects were nausea, indigestion, and stomach pain.
We're in this together. Talk to a doctor about Nurtec ODT.
In an Instagram post about the partnership, Gaga wrote, "Ever since childhood, I've dealt with migraine pain. When I tried Nurtec ODT, Rimingapant 75 milligrams for the first time, I'll never forget wishing I'd found it sooner. That's why I'm proud to partner with Nurtec ODT." The Gaga ad included safety information about the drug, which, according to Nick Lagunowich, the global president of emerging markets at Pfizer, is already the #1 prescribed migraine medicine in its class in the United States. But according to the New York Post, Pfizer reportedly recalled more than 4.2 million units of the Nurtec 75 milligram tablets on March 16, 2023, which includes expiration dates through June of 2026 because the packaging was not child resistant and posed a poison risk.
The partnership with Pfizer has provoked backlash from fans. One Instagram follower wrote, "Keep pushing Big Pharma, keep killing your fans." One Twitter user wrote, "Gaga doing paid promo for Nurtec. The recession touches all." But other fans came to Gaga's defense, with one tweeting, "I actually think Lady Gaga partnering with Pfizer Nurtec ODT is a good thing. Migraines are a big issue affecting millions, and this collaboration has the potential to change the global landscape of at-home healthcare." So what do you think? Do you fault Lady Gaga for doing this?
I mean, she's a person who is responsible for her choices, and it's not a choice that I would make. But I do think the issue is much bigger than just Lady Gaga. The question we should be asking is why the United States is one of a very, very small minority of countries. I think New Zealand is one, and Canada has some limited allowance for direct-to-consumer pharmaceutical advertising, but most countries make it illegal. You cannot, as a pharmaceutical company, market directly to customers, and it was that way in the United States as well, in large part until the 90s, when the FDA loosened the restrictions on the ability to market directly to consumers. Their thinking was, well, why do you need to market to consumers? You go to your doctor, you can market to the physician. They have a sense of what is medically indicated for your condition. And there was concern that exactly something like this would happen. Someone like Lady Gaga, who's enormously influential, one of the biggest pop stars in the world, who has legions of fans that she calls her little monsters and who do follow her lead in a way that is not tailored to what their medical needs are necessarily, would be influenced to perhaps take medication that was not otherwise medically indicated. And so I think there is a bigger question here about why it is that we loosened those restrictions that the rest of the world have really good public health concerns about. And should we be worried about the fact that before those regulations were lifted, the industry spent about $2 billion marketing to consumers. That was back in 1997. That number was $10 billion by 2016. Are we being led in a more healthful direction by having this direct-to-consumer marketing? Or are companies spending this much money convincing you to take their drugs for some reason other than they're looking out for your best health?
I guess we might disagree on this. I don't think the government should come between you and, like, it's your choice if you think this is good for you and you get, this is a prescription, right? You still got to get a doctor to prescribe it for you. And if you're persuaded because Lady Gaga took it, that's on you. And I don't know, maybe it's good for you. Maybe it's a breakthrough in I know migraines do debilitate a lot of people, and if it helps, it helps. That's on your choice. It's up to you to decide what is the right medical course of action for you. Obviously, you should consult a doctor, as you absolutely have to in this case. But I'm gonna tell consenting adults what they can put in their bodies, just in general, right? Look, I don't think. Some like the problem with the vaccines and all of that. In terms of advertising, it was the government pushing it. That's what I object to, and in some cases tweaking policies so that you are encouraged or that you actually had to get it in order to keep your job or in order to comply with, in order to have your kid in school. All that. That's what I have the issue with.
What is?
But out there, it's your choice. It should be your choice.
Describe for me what your concerns are with government control. Like when you push back against the size of government, the influence of government, what fundamentally is the problem, which I agree can be a real problem, with government exerting that much? Well, I don't want to answer my own question, but what is your worry about government?
They have the power of law. Like they can ultimately, they can jail you. They have the monopoly on force. They can force you. You can't be like advertising. It's not mind control. They can't make you take. Now, if Pfizer advocates policies where you have to take this for some reason, I totally oppose those, and I don't think.
Well, these corporations lobbied for a change in the law that would allow them to do this direct consumer marketing because they know it will positively affect their bottom line, while with a disregard for whether or not it will positively affect the health outcomes of Americans.
But I think they ought to have the private organizations ought to have the freedom to advertise, engage in speech to say we would like you to buy our product.
Right.
They shouldn't be able to force you to.
So my concern with government is that it can be captured, it can be weaponized in the ways that you described. It's incredibly powerful, and it can use that power for negative ends. The good thing about government, unlike private industry, is that at least superficially, on some level, there are democratic levers to control government. And the argument, in my view, should be figure out how to keep government from being captured by limiting the amount of political spending, by having shorter term limits, by having more transparency in government, and by in some way and sometimes shrinking certain agencies and growing others, and to have a dynamic process where we're constantly trying to root out what is going to be a constant effort by powerful interests to control government. Part of my argument also would be to get at the root of why some powerful interests have so much influence in government, and that is this money in government problem. So on one side, you want to limit the amount of corporate spending, but given that we have a legal system that is so permissible about outside expenditures and limitless, that you also have to get to the root of people having so much money that they are able to lobby and control government through these other means. That being said, I, as a lawyer, have been exposed to cases and some of the thinking that goes behind. I worked on a big pharmaceutical industry case, and I can't talk too much about it, but I observed legal minds that were great and mighty in other contexts. This was an issue about lobbying to doctors, not to patients. But the argument that was being made, the case that was being brought, was that the pharmaceutical industry had misrepresented the efficacy of their product and when it should be prescribed, leading to mass overprescription and a billing of the government and millions of dollars because it was reimbursing these things through Medicare and Medicaid, right?
Yes.
And so I thought that the legal mind that I was talking to, who was conservative, would say, this is government waste, this is a problem. But what I found was there was a credulity, an overconfidence in the medical profession and doctors who people thought, well, they know what's right. They wouldn't be swayed by advertising. They're doing the right thing.
Yeah.
And let the company spend. Sure. But you have to really wrap your mind around this idea. You really think that these companies are spending dozens of billions of dollars, $10 billion, back in 2016, because they're not getting a return on their investment, because they're not influencing.
No, I'm sure they are.
And this is the concept of doctors. They're not influencing doctors to prescribe in ways that they wouldn't have if they were just following their medical advice. Now, take that once removed from doctors onto patients. And so you can say laissez-faire, it's fine, but you're saying that every individual consumer has to make a choice with billions of dollars of marketing aimed at them,
right,
and expect them just to be able to tough it out.
Well,
and
but
not have
somebody
anything
has to make
back.
a choice. I mean, if the choice is, I certainly think doctors will get it wrong sometimes, people will get it wrong sometimes, but somebody's making a choice. And also that the pharmaceutical companies can have very bad incentives to do everything you just described that sounds bad. Also, the government health officials can have bad judgment. The people, saying, no, this is not legal, this should be legal, those people can make bad choices too. You're right to call, I agree with a lot of what you just said. And the issue where if the pharmaceutical company can make money because they're lobbying doctors, because then it gets covered by Medicare, but that's also not like a totally laissez-faire system, right? Because that's the government subsidizing things that end up getting approved.
No, so
then we end up having a fight over.
This specific case happened to be about the Medicare,
right,
but the fundamental issue is the violation is the inaccurate, the lying and the marketing.
But here's the fundamental issue from my standpoint. I don't want the government to stop you from taking from any side. Again, libertarian. You should be able to put whatever in your body you want to. But when something's approved, because the medical care is covered, that means it's going to be subsidized through insurance. So then there are some of these, like the FDA approved recently a new drug for Alzheimer's, right? And it's really expensive.
It costs like hundreds of thousands of dollars
exorbitantly
a year.
expensive, and there's serious concerns over whether it actually works. I don't think it should be illegal to take this drug. I think if you have the money to pay for it and you want to take it and you think this is, you should be able to take it.
I think that's a different issue, though, than this advertising issue. The idea that a multi-billion-dollar industry should be allowed unfettered to make representations about the value of its drug to the public, using popular, iconic figures like Lady Gaga, who has a fandom so intense that they happily describe themselves as her little monsters. Weaponizing that parasocial relationship to sell pharmaceutical drugs that have side effects and could hurt the public, I think is one of those areas that us as members of a democracy can choose to vote for candidates who pass legislation to protect us against the onslaught of a multi-billion-dollar pharmaceutical industry.
But how do we know those people are actually protected? I mean, but do those people have our best interest?
Because we elect them and can make these decisions democratically. And we have and done so in the past, and that's what the status quo was. That was the status quo was until the people that now you're on the side of defending right now in the context of this argument. The pharmaceutical industry lobbied them with money that was not our democratic money, that was not our legislative conceit, to change the rules to advantage pharmaceutical companies.
It is several levels removed from the democratic process for who controls the government health bureaucracy, right? The people that make these decisions, and then they're captured by this very same people.
From the democratic process is the CEO of Pfizer.
They're both very removed from the democratic process. But
Robby,
with
there is no democratic process between you and the CEO of Pfizer.
You to buy these things.
Zero. All right. Well, I mean, there's like...
And if it's fraudulent, you should be able to sue them.
Google Edward Bernays and 100 years of history and the reporting of the influence of advertising. There's a reason why these things are in place. Advertising is deeply effective. It works. And so you can sit here and say, I'm so strong, I can resist the lure of advertising, but we have a multi-billion, trillion-dollar economy that's based on our inability to actually resist.
Companies that engage in fraud can and should be sued for it. I absolutely don't want any laws that protect their liability for that kind of thing. I think that's the correct remedy. I'm not saying there should be no accountability.
In the case that I was talking about, the pharmaceutical company won. On the basis that the judgment was, well, doctors know what to do. They can never be influenced by advertising. Exactly what you're saying. They know the right thing to do.
I took words in my mouth. I didn't say they can never be influenced by advertising. I'm saying that, but it's still your choice. No one is putting a gun to your head. The government shuts off the choice when it says you cannot have access to this product.
No one was putting a gun to those doctors' heads. They happened to take an all-expense-paid trip to Hawaii and then make the decision to prescribe this statin. But, you know, hey, it was their choice, and it had nothing to do with anything. It just happened to be a really good drug. It lowered people's cholesterol. What can you do?
I was reading an interesting case the other day of this new regulation on sesame seeds. Have you heard about this?
No.
So there was a law that was passed. Congress passed, like, very bipartisan, to require labeling of products that have sesame seeds in them because people are allergic to sesame seeds. The Wall Street Journal has this great report on the result of this being that companies are adding sesame seeds to their products at record numbers because it is more costly to certify that your product does not have sesame seeds in it than it is to simply add that there are sesame seeds and put that disclosure. Isn't that funny?
Well, why not? Why do they have to add sesame seeds just to put that there's sesame seeds on the label?
Because it's too expensive to disclaim that there's no dairy and there's no... So
can't you just say may include sesame seeds? Because so many labels say may include traces of
the way the regulation is written to satisfy it.
Sounds like people should change the regulation.
I guess so. More Rising right after this.